Have you ever felt a deep connection to your hometown, your local sports team, or even your country during the Olympics? That feeling of belonging, of shared identity, is a small taste of what we call nationalism. But how did this powerful idea, the one that shaped the very map of modern Europe, come to be? Let's rewind the clock and explore the dramatic story of the rise of nationalism in Europe. Before the 19th century, the idea of a nation as we know it didn't really exist for most people. Europe was a patchwork quilt of multinational empires, kingdoms, and city-states. A farmer in what is now Germany might feel more loyalty to his local prince or duke than to some abstract idea of Germany. People were subjects of a ruler, not citizens of a nation. Your identity was tied to your village, your religion, or your allegiance to a monarch, like the Habsburgs or the Bourbons. So what changed? The spark was the French Revolution of 1789. The French Revolution was a political earthquake. It overthrew the king and declared that sovereignty, the right to rule, didn't come from a monarch or from God, but from the people, the citizens. Suddenly, the French people were no longer subjects of a king, but citizens of a nation, la patrie. The revolution introduced powerful new symbols to forge this new national identity. The tricolor flag, the national anthem La Marseillaise, and the very idea of a shared citizenship. It was a radical shift, promoting liberty, equality, and fraternity for all French citizens. Then came Napoleon Bonaparte. As his armies marched across Europe, they didn't just bring war. They brought the ideas of the French Revolution with them. Initially, some people in other parts of Europe welcomed the French as liberators, hoping to overthrow their own old-fashioned rulers. But Napoleon's conquests soon turned into occupation. His armies imposed French laws, levied heavy taxes, and forced men to join his army. This foreign domination backfired. Instead of embracing French ideas, people in Spain, Prussia, and across the Italian and German states began to resent French rule. This shared opposition to a common enemy ignited their own sense of national identity. They started asking, who are we? We're not French. We are Spanish. We are German. The Napoleonic Wars, ironically, became a crucible for nationalism across the continent. After Napoleon's defeat in 1815, the old powers of Europe tried to turn back the clock. At the Congress of Vienna, leaders like Austria's Metternich redrew the map, trying to restore the old monarchies and suppress the dangerous new ideas of nationalism and liberalism. They carved up territories without any regard for the people living there, lumping different ethnic and linguistic groups together under one ruler. For example, Italy was split into numerous small states, many under Austrian control. Germany was a loose confederation of 39 states, dominated by Austria and Prussia. The Austrian Empire itself was a massive multinational state, ruling over Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Poles, and many others. This attempt to stuff the genie of nationalism back into the bottle was doomed to fail. Throughout the 19th century, the idea of the nation-state for a single nation with a shared culture, language, and history gained unstoppable momentum. This was fueled by the Romantic movement in art and literature. Romantics celebrated folk culture, traditional songs, and national languages. In Germany, the Brothers Grimm collected fairy tales, not just as stories for children, but as a way to preserve a shared German cultural heritage. In Poland, Chopinist music became a symbol of national spirit in a country that didn't even exist on the map at the time. This cultural nationalism gave people a powerful sense of shared identity and a desire for political unity. The fire of nationalism erupted into a series of revolutions across Europe in the so-called springtime of the peoples. From Paris to Vienna to Budapest, liberals and nationalists rose up demanding constitutional governments and national unification. Although most of these revolutions were ultimately crushed by conservative forces, they showed that nationalism was a force to be reckoned with. The old order was cracking. The second half of the 19th century saw this dream of national unity become a reality for two of Europe's most significant new nations, Italy and Germany. In Italy, the unification movement, known as the Reshaped, was led by figures like the charismatic revolutionary Giuseppe Garibaldi and the cunning statesman Camillo di Cavour of Piedmont, Sardinia. Through a combination of diplomacy, strategic alliances, and popular uprisings, they gradually pushed out foreign powers, primarily Austria, and united the patchwork of Italian states. By 1871, the Kingdom of Italy was born, with Rome as its capital. In Germany, unification was masterminded by the formidable Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Prussia. Bismarck was a master of realpolitik, practical, ruthless approach to politics. He famously declared that the great questions of the day would be decided not by speeches and majority votes, but by iron and blood. He skillfully provoked 3 short, decisive wars against Denmark, Austria, and finally France. These wars ignited German nationalist fervor and persuaded the smaller German states to unite under Prussian leadership. In 1871, in the Hall of Mirrors, at Versailles, of all places, the German Empire was proclaimed, forever changing the balance of power in Europe. But the rise of nationalism wasn't a happy story for everyone. For the great, multinational empires, like the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, it was a ticking time bomb. Known as the sick man of Europe, the Ottoman Empire saw its Balkan territories, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, break away, one by one, throughout the 19th century, each fighting for and winning its independence based on a distinct national identity. Similarly, the Austro-Hungarian Empire was plagued by demands from its many ethnic groups, Czechs, Poles, and Slavs for more autonomy, or even full independence. These nationalist tensions created a powder keg in Eastern Europe, setting the stage for future conflicts. By the early 20th century, nationalism had completely reshaped Europe. The old world of empires and dynasties had given way to a world of nation-states. But this powerful force had a dark side. As nations competed for power, colonies, and prestige, nationalism became more aggressive and exclusionary. It fostered an us versus them mentality that fueled intense rivalries. This aggressive nationalism, combined with a complex web of military alliances and an arms race, created an incredibly volatile situation. It was this explosive mix that would ultimately detonate in 1914, plunging the continent and the world into the catastrophe of the First World War. So, from a revolutionary idea of popular sovereignty to a cultural movement celebrating shared heritage, and finally, to a political force that built new nations and tore old empires apart. The rise of nationalism is one of the most important stories of the modern world. It's a story of liberation and unification, but also of conflict and division. And its legacy continues to shape our world today. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey through European history interesting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the past. See you next time.